Alright boys, we're going to be reviewing Malfeasance today. Essentially, it got two different buffs here with update 2.0.5. It got an increase in Explosive Shadow detonation damage, and it also got an increased damage against Taken and Invaders. So let's talk about this weapon and what it's doing. First up, let's do a refresher on the gun's perks. Explosive Shadow is the intrinsic perk here. You shoot tainted slugs that burrow into an enemy. Stacking enough slugs cause them all to explode. Essentially, guys, if you land 5 shots, and it can be crits or bodies, what happens though, those 5 shots will explode upon landing the 5th shot, resulting in it doing massive amounts of damage against your enemy. In PvP, that damage is now 30 per slug. Originally, it was 20 per slug. So it got a total damage increase of 50 here in PvP. Now, if you're like me, I asked myself, how is this even practical? This is a 180 round per minute hand cannon. It's got a 1-second time to kill. For the most part, you'll kill any Guardian in 2 crits and 2 body shots. So when are you actually going to take advantage of this increased damage with Explosive Shadow? Now, I have 2 examples. Number 1, you're in the long range. You're hardly doing any damage due to damage fall off, but you still are able to land 5 shots. And again, guys, these do not have to be 5 consecutive shots. Upon landing that 5th shot, you can walk away. You're done. That enemy is dead. Now, that is scenario number 1, and not the kind of scenario I would say you would want to get yourself into, considering that the range on this weapon is 50, and I would never suggest tying up in mid to long range engagements with weapons that weren't designed for those ranges. Which takes us to our second scenario, the ability to shut down supers. Considering a lot of the supers we have are far range, they're roaming, and snipers can't even one-shot kill a super, even if you land the crit, I was really impressed with Malfeasance's capability to kill a super. Watch this, guys. It's hitting 22 per crit and 14 per body. But notice how I'm landing the shots, not even caring if I'm landing crits. But that Explosive Shadow damage is doing 12 per slug for an extra 60 damage. Now that means you're gonna have to get in a few more shots, but as that Explosive Shadow damage is taking place, you're already gonna be landing that 6 and 7 shot on that tail end to finish your opponents. I think the biggest takeaway from this is your opponents will underestimate your damage. They see you shooting them with the primary and they don't even dodge. They just run straight toward you, which will result in you killing them very quickly. Let's talk about the trait of this weapon, Taken Predator. Bonus damage against Taken enemies and Gambit invaders. Now this got a buff, and a pretty massive one. The damage it's putting into these Taken is very nice. But what's even more impressive is the damage that it puts in against invaders. Guys, we're hitting 90 per crit against invaders. Now, again, practicality. How many of us are going to tango up in the mid-range with a Malfeasance? I agree, doesn't sound necessarily wise. But the Explosive Shadow damage from those slugs in Gambit hits 49 per slug. That means you just have to land 5 shots. And they can be all 5 toe shots. It doesn't matter, because once that slug damage activates, it is gonna wreck that invader. Now the bump up in damage, it was originally hitting 77 per crit. So going from 77 to 90 is a huge jump, but it's something that's very much appreciated in those mid ranges when damage fall off starts taking a toll on your weapon. So with all that being said, is Malfeasance an exotic you should be loading out? Okay, so let's be real here. It is a 180 round per minute hand cannon, so it's got a lot of competition. Between Trust, Not Forgotten, and Luna's Howl, there's a lot it's working up against, but those are in different slots. Those are all present in the energy slot. So if you're looking for a kinetic slot 180, then this is right up your alley. It is arguably one of the best feeling 180s in the game. Like, I have a pretty decent row Trust, and they're about neck and neck in terms of consistency and just overall feel of the weapon. Like Not Forgotten, Luna's Howl, despite those weapons being super powerful, I still think Trust is a better feeling 180 round per minute hand cannon. It just doesn't have the power that those other two have. Malfeasance brings the same thing to that kinetic slot. Yes, you are still looking at a time to kill of 1 second. It will require you to land 2 crits, 2 body shots, and that Explosive Shadow damage is not necessarily something you're going to take advantage of much in PvP outside of shutting down a few supers, which is where I think the whole grand design of this weapon is purely meant for Gambit, which is a tough choice. But I will say the damage that it's doing now to Taken enemies is not necessarily the most noticeable against the Primeval himself, but it's super noticeable against all other Taken enemies. On top of that, you can still rock something like Malfeasance and an Icolo shotgun. So it's not like you're not able to do DPS. I think it's one of the best weapons in terms of dealing with Taken enemies quickly without having to expend all of your special or power ammo, allowing you to save that ammo for when the primeval actually spawns. So boys, I'm a huge fan. I like it. If I had it on my character, I would probably use it more in Gambit. I know a lot of people are going to say, what about this exotic or that exotic? I get it. But I like the fact that this is in my kinetic slot, that explosive shadow damage is not something that's just applicable to Taken. It does a good job dealing with majors, and on top of that, it completely takes invaders by surprise. So guys, try it out for yourself. By the way, shout out to Light Razor for letting me get on his account and playing with this weapon. And if you're looking to get Malfeasance, down below in the description will be a quest guide. Although I will say, a lot of it is RNG based and requires you to play a lot of Gambit and get really lucky. But feel free to check that guide out if you're interested. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.